To be human is to search for meaning, to ask why when confronted with the fact of existence and being aware and conscious. Now, you can outsource meaning to religious beliefs in an external God, and everyone has their own right to do that. People have found comfort for millennia in believing in a creation myth or a story where objective meaning is kind of supplanted onto the world through having a faith that it was created by some kind of higher power, your God, your Allah, your Yahweh, whatever it is. But when we as a species evolved beyond the need for this biblical, Abrahamic, Judeo-Christian God to structure our society, to create our laws and our morality, when science and technological advancement led to the creation of this materialist paradigm, which quickly became the dominant paradigm in Western culture, God, as we previously conceived it by religion, had been destroyed, or as the 19th century German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche puts it, God is dead and we have killed him. And so this was the birth of the philosophy of nihilism, or the belief that there is no inherent objective meaning to reality in itself. And the implications of nihilism, they're very, very profound for the human condition, because we're creatures who desperately need meaning. We just as much need meaning as we need food or water for sustenance, living in a completely meaningless and indifferent world. There's no objective reason for why we exist. This is undoubtedly an absurd situation to be in. So that begs the question, where do we find meaning? And the 20th century French Algerian philosopher Albert Camus suggests that we have three options. One answer is suicide, to end one's life because of the realization that no one can ever hope to find any objective meaning in reality. Now, Camus actually discourages this because it doesn't actually face the problem head on. It merely avoids the issue entirely by throwing a tantrum at existence itself. The second option is again to adopt some kind of belief system or faith to supplant meaning onto the world artificially. But this doesn't address the root cause of the problem. It merely replaces the old pre-19th century God with some other fiction or myth to produce meaning for one's life. Camus' preferred option, and the third option, is inspired by the ancient tale of Sisyphus, a Greek king who was known for his craftiness, his wit and gumption. So crafty, in fact, that he managed to actually cheat death itself twice by tricking the Greek gods. As a result, when finally caught, he was forced to roll an enormous boulder up the side of a mountain until he reached the top, where the boulder would then roll back down the mountain and Sisyphus would have to start all over again. He would have to repeat this arduous task for the rest of time, for eternity, as punishment for his crimes. Now, Camus draws a parallel between Sisyphus's punishment and the human condition. Just like Sisyphus is forced to do an unfinishable and objectively meaningless task, we are forced to search for meaning in a world that is entirely devoid of meaning, a world that is entirely indifferent to our existence. Camus reasons that the solution to this problem is to fully and radically accept our predicament for what it is, in all of its absurdity, and readily enjoy the struggle and suffering of pushing the boulder up the hill every day. Meaning is found in the task itself, precisely because you are doing it, struggling to do the impossible, knowing it is impossible, and still continuing to do it anyway. As Camus says, the struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. And I especially love this tale because sometimes when I'm doing these workouts, I feel like I'm Sisyphus. I think we all can. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's workouts or some other task in life. You sometimes will get those thoughts that, what's the meaning behind this? What does it really mean in the grand scheme of things? And the answer is it doesn't. For me, it's every single rep and set. It's just another boulder to push up another hill. There is quite literally no objective meaning to doing any of this. Even if I achieve everything I could possibly have ever wanted to do in my wildest dreams, with my athleticism, growing this channel, inspiring others, having a successful life, in the grand scheme of things, it makes no difference. We're just a tiny speck on an infinite and different universe. But it's precisely in the realization that I'm the one who creates the meaning in my own personal direct experience of my struggle, my suffering from doing it day in and day out, week in and week out, year after year, is the ultimate freedom that you can have from this existential dread. It's completely absurd that I never asked to exist, and yet I'm here in my precise life situation, existing and doing these workouts every day, producing my own meaning from embracing that in my own special way. If you're watching this, My biggest hope for you is that you can find your rock and your mountain to push it up for eternity too. So that's 100 days, guys. Thank you very much for following so far. Really thoroughly appreciate the support on the channel. A little bit of a different video today. I actually decided to write a script for this video. I don't often do it, and it does take me a bit more time, but I really feel like I'm able to sort of marinate the ideas that I want to get across in the video a lot better. And I think it's definitely a much better way to learn an idea or a concept. So if you're familiar with the pyramid of learning, it basically pertains to how much information you're able to retain from some kind of sensory experience. So generally, according to this pyramid, you retain about 5% of the information that you listen to as a lecture, about 10% of what you read, 20% of what you watch, like audio visual, 30% when you watch a demonstration, kind of like face-to-face, I would imagine. 50% is when you engage in a group discussion, 75% when you practice what you've learned, and then 90% when you teach someone else or use it immediately. So I have known about the tale of Sisyphus for a long time, and I've always had this kind of thought at the back of my mind of what the tale means and the different philosophical implications of that. But I figured that when I actually decide to create a piece of, again, it's not necessarily authentic, this isn't really authentic, but creating a piece of content that is my own personal experience and how I understand it, and then teaching that to you guys through a video, I feel like I'm going to retain a lot more of the information. And it would be interesting to try and do this with some other concepts as well. Maybe some strength and conditioning concepts, maybe some training concepts, some athletic concepts. Let me know in the comments, guys, what stuff you'd like to hear about, because it's definitely a very useful way to learn concepts and ideas and to really cement them in your mind. And hopefully what I've inspired you to do with this video is to pursue your own meaning in life. Don't try and supplant meaning onto the objective world with some kind of belief system. Try your best to create it for yourself, because it's in that attempt to do the impossible where you kind of paradoxically actually do find meaning for yourself. Ultimately, it is impossible to find meaning because there is no objective meaning to reality, but it's in the attempt to find that for yourself is where you actually do find it. In the struggle for finding meaning is where you find meaning. It's kind of, again, counterintuitive, a little bit paradoxical, but then again, that is the nature of life. Life is paradoxical and life is also counterintuitive. So yeah, 100 days. It does feel kind of like any other day. Like, I think when we ascribe meaning to a specific number, we obviously know that it doesn't really mean anything. The most important thing really is that you're enjoying the process of what you do. It's nice to have these little milestones like 100 days, 200 days, but the most important thing is that you're always engaged in the process of doing it, because it's not about the outcome. Life isn't an outcome. There's no destination that you'll ever reach in life. It's all about, as I said previously, being Sisyphus and pushing that boulder up the hill and loving, or at least trying to love, every minute of it and finding meaning in it. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.